We thank God for his presence. Today, I'm Bishop Peter Gatimu. Christ is Lord. And the blood of Christ cover me and cover you completely, entirely, perfectly. Every place is sealed. Let the blood of Christ speak in every place of your life. We are in becoming a winner in life, not a winner by any philosophical we are becoming a winner through tangible truth from God. I'm talking in the context of God, living God himself. Now, last time we said, we become a winner, know your part. Let me give this example. When Daniel was in exile, they were taken away by King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. When he invaded Judah, it was judgment of God over Judah because of rebelliousness and disobedience. But this king took away intelligent, gifted young men to be trained among his own wise men. Wise men in Babylon, in the palace, were witches, mediums, witchcraft, whatever. And they were put there to learn the literature, the language, the culture of that place. And one thing that was required, as they eat, they feed from the king's delicacies, king's menu, king's food, which was not good for a believer. So, Daniel said, in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, he resolved not to defile himself by the king's food. I say to you, the starting point of becoming special is deciding to be holy, and deciding to be righteous, and deciding to choose what is good. Now, the problem with these days is people are using their own reasoning and evaluation to determine what is good before God. I want to tell you the truth. What is good before God is what is good in his standard. And sometimes what is good because God said it is good and God did not explain why. The character of God and the nature of God, being holy and entirely holy, consider some good things in the mind and the eyes of man to be defilement. Some practices that seems to be harmless according to the surroundings, wherever you live, your culture. To God, it is dirty, it is defiling, it is ungodly. So we obey God not because God has obligation of explaining the reason for his law. We obey God because he's God, and his law is final, and that's all. If God says this is the mode of baptism, let's obey. This is the way I should be honored, let's obey. Bible says if you don't receive, that is Mark chapter 10 verse 15, if whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a small child, like a baby, will whatsoever not enter in. So, we don't need a lot of philosophy and a lot of complexity to receive the kingdom. We need simplicity of faith, simplicity of heart. And that's why in Numbers chapter 12 verse 3, God explained why it was so easy for him to relate with Moses. He said, and that man, Moses, was more meek than any other man in the world. That's very important. And that's very important. And that's why if you go to Daniel chapter 2, yes, when the king had a dream, dreadful dream, could not remember it, and demanded something that had never been demanded by a king. He said, my wise people must remind me the dream and give the interpretation. And they said, king, no ruler, no king, no ruler, no one has ever demanded the two things. You give us the dream, we give you the interpretation. He said, if you do not remind me the dream, the content of the dream, and interpretation, I'll destroy you and all your families. Remember, Daniel were trainees among wise people. And actually, if you check the Bible, it's like the king started killing people, and Daniel were almost to be lynched. And said, Daniel, the king says you should die also. And Daniel said, no. No, tell the king to stop and give me chance to seek the mercies of the living God. When Daniel prayed, he came back and said, the king, whatever you demanded cannot be answered by any man on earth in his own way. It can only come from the God of heaven, and he has spoken to me. You see now, Daniel, even in chaotic situation, knows his position and his part. I'm not supposed to perish with sinners. I'm not supposed to be confused like other confused members of the family. I should bring the God of heaven, who will bring an answer beyond human might. So that where people are discouraged and have reached the terminal stage, I can come and tell them, I have something beyond the terminal stage. The God we serve can speak to us, can do something beyond what you know. It's like when God went to Lazarus' place. They expected Lazarus to be healed, but he died and stayed in the grave for 4 days. And Christ was coming. They expected him to come and heal. Now he is coming when Lazarus is already in the grave. And Christ said to them, you expected me as a physician, as a healer. But Christ introduced another part of himself. He said, I am the resurrection and life. He said, I'm not only a healer, but I can raise from the dead and give life. Christ introduced the other aspect of himself. And that's why when people are in chaos, and we men and women who have the Spirit of God lives among them, we should come out and say, allow me to seek the mercies of the living God. We are not going to die with you. Neither will not allow you to die. Let me bring down the mercies of God. Remember the story of Paul in the book of Acts towards the end. The story of Paul in the book of Acts towards the end, when Paul was to present himself before Caesar. And they were using this ship, and it was tossed and wrecked. And Paul said to several people, he said, now you people, you would have listened to me. Now look, we almost died. But Paul said, the God I serve came to me and said, I must appear before Caesar in Rome. Therefore, I'm not going to die. And Paul said, and the God I serve said to me, because of me, he also save you. Therefore, the ship will be destroyed, but you and me will be saved and kept. Yes, that extra part beyond people, where God reveals the other level of glory concerning himself. That one will cause us to become winners, while we were expected to be losers. That's very important. Another thing is, know the cost, the price of standing for your faith in adverse conditions. Now, and